after TakeOver Triple X/30, who will reign North American champion? We flipping know it won't be. Hello and welcome to the LOP Radio NXT review. My name is Matt Maher, aka Imp, and we are live here on YouTube and also available in podcast form. Links in the description, or head over to wrestlingheadlines.net for your wrestling news or info on this and whatnot. Also a link to RedCircle where you can find exclusive Wrestling Headlines/LOP Radio. I'd like to end this period where I have to say slash and go to the old name. The sentences are so long. You go to RedCircle for LOP Radio content, including the whole back catalogue for everything as well. I mean, we're all here on YouTube as well if you want to see our pretty faces. But audio versions are also available. Anyway, I was going to click off something so that I can bloody concentrate. So, this Saturday is NXT TakeOver 30. And it was nice of them to call it TakeOver Triple X, so all the YouTubers have got to constantly remind people, don't Google it. Type in the numbers 30.
Oh, God.
So, thanks for that, NXT. Thanks for that. But they have spent this show building up to TakeOver 30. And it's one of those that's been built up relatively well, like every other TakeOver kind of is. There's been a few weird steps. But there's also, but by the end of it, at the end of the show, I was thinking, I mean, overall, it's been built up relatively well. I kind of care, which is like the most important thing compared to, I know 100% this time next week, I will not give a crap about Payback. I will not care at all. It's like, yeah, that's damn right, James, pull a face. They're doing Payback 1 week after SummerSlam, which is mental.
I thought it was 2 weeks.
No,
I thought it was 2 weeks. I didn't know it was, wow.
No.
Wow.
No, yeah. And like for me, the Britishman, I like having time to recover. It's quite nice. Like after I've been up super late doing Aftershock, it's quite nice being able to recover again and then get set. With Paybacks, like Well, point being that I am generally looking forward to staying up for TakeOver. I don't know how much of that is set on past precedent of TakeOvers overall being great, or you look at a pairing and you're thinking, well, even if the build wasn't 100%, the match itself will be great. But Keith Lee carrying Cross, I didn't really care for the Fire book, the Fire contract. However, the match itself is going to be great. I have kind of like no question about that as well. Especially after seeing, like on the indies, how well Keith Lee wrestles against other big men. So I know how well he can handle himself in that kind of style of match. So really looking forward to that. Obviously, the one that this title of this video is based on is the North American Championship up for grabs in the ladder match, creating a nice kind of callback to the first North American Championship ladder match. I was previously enjoying seeing all of these kind of new guys and characters who haven't really had their break yet get entered into the match, which again mirrored the original. And as favourites, and I feel like the two that got added today were a bit more kind of established names. And I can't remember that being the case in the first one. Maybe it was. But it's a... I'm trying to think... Because there might have been in one of those periods where a lot of guys had left, though.
Yeah, they had Cole, who had been around, and Velveteen, who had, had the match by that Survivor Series weekend before against Aleister Black that kind of got him, started the ball rolling for him. But aside from that, it was EC3 coming through, Ricochet's first match. Then you had Killian Dane and Lars. So you're right. Like, this is far more established now with, unfortunately Velveteen, but with Johnny in it. Someone like Cameron Grimes who, once the bell rings, he's pretty much established someone that always gets his stuff over since he's been around for about a year. And Priest, of course. So, I feel like it's a lot more, it's a more known entity type of a situation this time around.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to it, obviously, because they've got... I'm not expecting them to hit the heights of the original. I am planning at some point tomorrow to watch the original North American Championship ladder match, just because I remember... I might be setting myself up for failure, but I remember enjoying it so much. It's kind of like, I've just been busy. I've been meaning to watch it. I didn't mean to leave it this close to the next one, but I do want to generally go back and watch it. And But yeah, I was really enjoying seeing it get filled up with all these names. Like Damian Priest has been so close to getting that next moment that he feels like he really does fit in, like kind of like Adam Cole was at the last one, where he was like on the cusp. He just needed to get a championship, and that's what this was for him. So I feel like Damien Priest is in a similar kind of thing when we get to like predictions for it. I don't know who I'm leaning to in that case. It's like Bronson Reed as well. It's been great seeing someone like him get added to it again, who's not really had much of a thing, like since winning the NXT debut tournament thing that ACH and Cameron Grimes were also in.
The breakout tournament.
Breakout tournament, that was it.
Yep.
Yes. Since then, he's not really had anything to do. He's been kind of simmering in the background, kind of like establishing, I guess, his entrance and everything. And now he's totally ready, and I'm really enjoying his stuff. Again, I'm biased. I loved him as Jonah Rock on the Indies, so I'm a little bit biased as it is. But yeah, that's building up relatively well.
Joshua keeping his strong style. He had a big be on the lookout for him. Like, he really liked his work before. So he was kind of like, all right, when are you going to finally, put something to him? And this, it's been a year, but this is like, now they're finally, getting to it with him. So that's good, at least, I guess.
And I thought the ending to tonight's show did a really good job of, which is like a fun segment with the just chaos and everybody jumping in, getting their move in. And for me, the note that kind of saved it all, especially given the kind of sour feeling a little bit with the finish of the match, I feel like the thing that saved it was Bronson Reed being the one standing tall at the end. WWE rules normally mean the guy who holds it up at the end doesn't win. So him winning this battle pretty much secures his failure. But it was a nice little note to end on. Just like him standing tall, rather than somebody else, or just kind of ending with the match result type of thing. I really liked Rich Latter in the chat. Cole sucks, go McAfee. When we get to McAfee, as somebody who doesn't have a clue who he is, as somebody who has no idea who those people he brought with him are, I assumed other NFL people. For all I know, they were extras. They meant nothing to me.
They didn't say anything.
They were just there. Just like, I'm in my notes. I've called them Sierra Hotel Echo Lima Pat. But talk in North American Championship ladder match. I feel like it's been built in a fun way rather than a interweaving storylines kind of way, and they've done, because the last one did a really good job of getting your big lads and your little lads, your high flyers. It was Ricochet's debut, if I'm right, and Indie Darling's in there as well. This time, I don't get that sense of a top high flyer unless I'm forgetting an entrant, but there is the big lads and the smaller lads, like Cameron Grimes, kind of smaller as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Not. I mean, we have Ricochet in one match. That's just a whole nother level.
So, I just want to blast through the topic topic I don't really want to talk about. I feel like I have to, and I've got my notes for it as well. Just get through it 8 minutes into the show, so it's done. I'm going to have a bit of thing. So, where I've got my notes for it, Finn Balor cut a promo on Velveteen Dream. And it's the normal Finn Balor promo. I love the way they're shot. I love the way they're delivered. Finn Balor's just great in these. It's one of those where I just feel like, if he got this on the main roster, it irritates me because it's so great. He's great, but I'm finding it really difficult to get invested. As WWE as a whole has handled Dream's accusations so badly in a complete PR breakdown. I don't care in this scenario specifically. I don't care whether he did it or not. This is purely about the PR handling of it. In that case as well, in terms of PR, it doesn't really matter. It's more about how do you handle it, how do you treat it from there as well, with what everybody knows, because we don't know. And his return was too early, Triple H's statement a week late, the mystery opponent a trick of trust, and the fan reaction reflects all of that. Turning him heel to counter that reaction isn't going to be enough. Saying, can we move on please, isn't going to cut it. These accusations are extremely serious, and during this time, Patrick Clark should be nowhere near our TV screens. I love NXT, but this is really bad. And Deadspin posted an article which held no punches, and I feel like it only hit a little bit harder because of the media call that happened a day or so before, and Deadspin just flat out saying that they've put an accused child abuser on television without addressing it as if it didn't happen. He's just gone 2 months and came back, and the media call saying, oh, he was gone because of the car accident. The car accident was legit. It did happen at the same time. But to say, oh, we looked into it, didn't do it, a week after his debut, where he was a mystery opponent, it's just, in terms of PR, it's horrendous. It's awful, and they seem to be making bad step after bad step. And which, again, it sucks because I really love NXT, and this actively took away from it for me. And like, maybe if they hadn't recorded back-to-back, they saw the fan reaction from last week and went, maybe we don't have him qualify then, or something like that. Then they could have, course corrected, as WWE likes to do quite a lot on the main roster, week to week. But yeah, it's not an easy topic to talk about, and I know a lot of people, when they listen, is like, oh god, they keep going on about it. Yeah, of course I do, because it's such a serious thing, and they just brought him back, like as if nothing, and then in the media calls, oh, can we move on, please? No, we can't move on. Like, until this is tackled, no. Like that, the era of really, because Patrick Cock is really talented, but the era of really talented people being allowed to get away with whatever they want, no, that's not going to fly anymore. And this thing, I don't think, this is one of those things that is going to be let go by the fans. It feels like it's too big, especially what's happened over this summer. And I know I've taken the tone down to like really serious, but I felt like that kind of fit. I feel like I kind of had to address this. That this is a massive mark on WWE as a whole right now. And even though Deadspin's article was taking a lot from Reddit, which was, that's not the best in terms of getting accurate information. Right. But the relentlessness at which they went to it I found extremely refreshing. And I feel like that is the kind of thing needed, where in the media call there's kind of that feeling of, if I piss them off, then I might not get the call back, and that might hurt my site, kind of thing. And kind of give kudos to Deadspin for going F that and just going full in, just flat out doing that article. And yeah, I feel like that's kind of what's needed right now, because this is so serious. I feel like to say, no, we're not going to move past this. We want this addressed, please. And I think that's everything I've got to say on that. I'm like a bad stand-up comedian, and I'm struggling to find an out. There's no gaps. So just. I
can add on if you want me to.
Yeah. Take away.
Yeah, all of this with the speaking out thing that happened about a month, 6 weeks ago, and you have all these people involved inside of WWE and around the rest of the wrestling world, and people have been let go, people have been relieved of their duty, people have been flat out fired. People have, been fired across the board. People have had to delete their Twitter accounts and post all types of nonsense for paid ads, and then try to rebrand themselves as some type of religious, using religion to basically like hide behind the things that they've done to people. And then people have pointed it out, and then they had to go run and hide again, like hello, Joey Ryan. But with this Velveteen Dream thing, it happened, and not only did it happen, it happened before. This is a precursor to the speaking out hashtag. Like, when he first came back to fight in the title program against Undisputed Era and actually Adam Cole, that stuff had already been out on the internet. Back then, me and Rich of One Nation Radio talked about this. Like, he shouldn't be on TV right now. And they continued to put him on TV, and he had matches, and he was also coming back from the shoulder injury, and he was terrible in the matches. And then he lost, and then he went away, and like he's just right back as if like, oh, this is like the second, like it's almost like he's a second suspension for all this, or this second time they had to acknowledge this, and the second time he's passed by this. It makes no sense to me. Like, I don't give a fuck how good we think the star potential is Velveteen Dream in the future. Why will you want to see him on TV if he's done? If you think there's reasonable evidence to conclude that he's done this, and that's a big reason why, like, I check out Raw every so often, but like I haven't had any, like, even though Daniel Bryan, AJ Styles are on SmackDown, I haven't felt any reason to watch SmackDown, like, because the Riddle thing bothers me as well. So for me, it's like, everybody has their breaking point, and they're gonna have to choose on whether or not, wrestler X that is has some terrible past, or accused of something terrible in their past, and probably have done that thing. Like, if their wrestling is more important than whatever they did to these people, that's up to everybody to make their decisions on it. And, like, obviously people are going to come to different conclusions. Mine is, I don't feel like watching the shit. I just don't. So Velveteen, for me, he makes it harder for me to watch NXT, and Matt Riddle, it makes it harder for me to watch SmackDown, just the same way that, like, whenever Excalibur comes back, it's going to make it harder for me to watch AEW. I just don't feel like these people are that valuable to where you can't just put another person in their spot and continue on. Velveteen's been around for how long now?
Yeah, like 2-3 years, is it?
Yeah, like 2017 was his first TakeOver match. Like, I thought he had a future to him. I thought a lot less of it after he came back and stunk up the joint all year with Velveteen, or with Adam Cole. And now that he's back, like, I appreciate that he had a pretty good match with Balor last night, but I don't care. I don't want to see you on my TV screen.
Yeah. Yeah, and like with the case of the others as well, like, it's like I was massive fans of, like, all three people just Semi talked about,
right?
But that's not enough, really. Like, I thought, especially Excalibur, like, I thought the world of Excalibur, and yes it does suck, but it doesn't take precedent over everything else. It doesn't diminish. His talents don't go, oh, that doesn't matter. It matters. It totally matters. And I can't move past a lot of these things. Like, especially with, like, one in kind of PR difference is Matt Riddle's got addressed in that period. It was somewhat tackled. Dream has been radio silence. So, like, as fans, your mind start to work, your conspiracy theories start to grow, and it's like, well, why has he been gone for this long? Obviously, there was the initial thing of he was in a car crash. So, yeah, the likelihood of him being able to wrestle anyway maybe wasn't that big. But to be radio silent and then bring him back as a mystery opponent, and that's what I meant by the trick of trust. Because some people have had that broken by the accusations made by Dream, and because they weren't addressed, their worries were not addressed either. So when he returns, the last thing they remember him for is those accusations. That's bad, just to bring him back, and which means when he comes back, they get brought out to the public again. And that's kind of what I feel like. Was Triple H not addressed by a PR person? Like, did they not brief him? So he goes to that media call, because that was kind of like a little turning. Because that happened before NXT this week, and for him to go in and be like, "Can we move on, please?" That was kind of like using the tone of these meetings, like, to your advantage to not address something so serious. It's like, no, that rubbed me the wrong way. And that's as somebody who the next day would have to kind of force himself through NXT, and I'm going into it just with, like, oh, I got rubbed the wrong way by the way you handled your statement, which I would assume a trained PR person would have been able to tell him, you don't tackle it like that. Because that is not, if it's something this serious, it needs to be at least somewhat addressed, or the tone of which you speak needs to be in a serious tone as well. You can't be shoving it along. It's like, nah, it doesn't matter. So, yeah. I'm obviously talking about this as an Englishman, where a lot of these things, like, when our politicians do stuff like that, they get fired. They are gone. They resign. They leave their offices. That type of thing, where there is no coming back from it type of stuff. Mm-hmm. And, like, there's what's the bloody word for it? There are checks and balances in place, essentially, no matter who you are. And obviously, see a lot of talk about. I'm diving into politics. I know this was an issue. Well,
speaking of the checks and balances and, like, giving non-answers for scandals and that sort of thing, once upon a time it seemed like America had that, but look where we are now.
Yeah, just wait a bit. It's like it'll be. Even if it is another 4 years after that, it's going to be out politics. So I'll just say checks and balances still do exist, even if, because he won't be in power forever. is the best way. Even if he falls a full term, 2 full terms, he won't be in power forever. Consequences come up to you eventually. And in terms of bring it back to the dream thing, that's what I feel like is happening here. Is the consequences will come to you eventually if you just brush it aside. It's like, it doesn't matter. That will catch up to you. You can't just ignore that kind of stuff. And, like, for example, they brought it up. It's in an era where they're bringing it up as well with Randy Orton, where they're actively saying, like, the amount of stuff that he did, like, if somebody didn't pull him out of that hole, he was done.
Right.
And to be addressing that and not be aware enough to know that you're accidentally repeating the same problems it's a little bit weird, a little bit jarring as a viewer. But yeah, so it's almost
if they're not sincere at all, and they're just
yeah. And like to kind of bring it full circle, as a viewer, I found it difficult to care about the thing I was watching, and that's kind of like, as somebody creating a product, that's like the number one thing that you want people to be like, are they engaged in the product? And the answer is, for me, when Dream is on screen, no, I am not. I'm checking out. I'm not really paying full attention, which is a massive con. And I go onto Twitter, and I know Twitter's not the be-all and end-all, but the consensus seems pretty similar. Like, one of the most liked tweets after NXT was like saying you put Dream in when you've got an LGBT, like, full-on pushing guy in it, Finn Balor, and you put Dream in, who's currently an accused child offender. It's like, ugh. That says something when that's the most liked tweet from your show. That is not good. But, so in terms of who will win the ladder match, to kind of drift away, we've dedicated like 15 minutes to that, and it's like not an easy topic to talk about. So in terms of the ladder match, my assumption is Dream will not win that. They are surely not. Surely not. So, even with my notes, he's just called ugh. It's felt like that when he walked out. But in terms of all the other guys, I've labelled Damian Priest as my favourite. And that's purely because I was relating it to who is that guy who just needs a title to kind of get pushed to that next level. And for me, Damian Priest is that guy. Like, who's the Adam Cole of this era, this moment? I mean, I might secretly love it if Cameron Grimes won. Just because there's something about him. Don't know what it is. I just love that Cameron Grimes to the moon. Yeah. He's such a cartoon southern cowboy guy that I just, as an Englishman, where that's one of the few voices of America we can actually do. It's quite nice. I love it. It's that and like generic movie Prison Warden. They're the two.
The funny thing about it is like so I'm from Florida. That's also the South, right? It's a different kind of South, but like, quite frankly, like North Carolina, like the Carolinas is like a different South from like West Virginia, which is a different South from Texas, which is a different South from Alabama, which is a different South from Louisiana. Like there's because it's so much land, everybody has a different twang to their Southern accent. So like, for example, like whenever I do the Cameron Grimes accent, like I don't do Cameron Grimes. I end up sounding like a guy from West Virginia. Like I sound more like Randy Moss, a NFL Hall of Fame wide receiver, than actually like Cameron Grimes or the Hardy Bros from North Carolina. So like it's hard to get it down right. But like I have heard about you guys on the other side of the pond offending Southern accents, and I'm still trying to figure out why. And you telling me that it's because you guys can actually replicate it. I'm like, I'm sorry, but every time I hear like an American accent from anybody, I always think like, yeah, that's pretty accurate. I never think like, I never heard of a bad American accent. I just never have, ever. I've heard of bad British accents, bad Australian accents, bad New England accents. Never a bad American accent. Never.
I think the two which seem to be universal are that one. The Cameron Grimes, what he's doing, essentially. Just him. And I guess Teenage American Girl as well, as in, oh my
Valley
God.
That's
that one. That's the one. They're the two.
Valley Girl.
And any voice in between. It's just, it's gone. Like, no. It takes genuine effort to get any good at any of the others. Oh, yeah. And, my brother's wife is from Utah. So, yeah. So, and yes, her family were Mormon. So she's, I don't know. Her voice to me is just American. there's no thing to it. There's no twang. It's like, yeah, you're American. I couldn't. If you asked me what state she was from by her accent, America. I don't know.
You'd be like, it's like 30 different states. I don't know.
Yeah,
right.
Like Utah's one of the hot ones, right? It's just like that one. But yeah, so my pick is Damian Priest. It's not Cameron Grimes, even though I love him. He is the in the PWG as the Impact Wrestling star. I loved that gimmick. He would just announce himself as the star of Impact Wrestling, and it would just get boos just all the time. But yeah, so my pick is Damian Priest because he's in the Adam Cole role. Do you have a favourite going in?
Mine would be Priest as well. I think I thought all along it was going to be him or Grimes, but what solidified it to me was last night when Cameron Grimes holds a title, then Johnny Gargano holds the title, then I think Velveteen also holds the title, and then Bronson Reed holds the title. The only person that held the title was our favorite. Sounds pretty good.
Yes, it's got to be the guy whose NXT name I just cannot remember for the life of me, and every time I sit there for 5 seconds, like, Punishment Martinez, what is his name? What is his name? What is his name?
Right.
I get it eventually. It's all right. It takes me a minute.
And he will. And then after he wins, I guess, the prophecy is being fulfilled, and I can already hear Maher saying that, like, he will finally be able to live forever in the history books of NXT, the annals, the hallways of NXT, yes. Full Sail.
That's the call and everything. Yes. Right.
I love Maher, but sometimes it's like, take it down a notch. Sometimes, Maher, please.
What movies? It's got Christopher Nolan films coming out. Is he going to relate it to Inception somehow? What's he going to do?
No, what I really am waiting for is there's been a song that's kind of taken over the internet the last couple weeks with Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. I want to know how I want to know how he references that. I want to know how he references that WAP. That's what I want. That's what I
want. Oh, you'll give it a go, surely. There's nothing PG TV in that. Right.
Like I imagine, like it's a quintuple down after 5 people are all down during the ladder match, and all of a sudden he's like, "You're gonna need a bucket and a mop." I can hear it now, and I can't wait till he tries to force it in. And I'm just, that might be that. Well, force it in might be lyrics from WAP, but never mind. We just move on.
Wait, Rich is saying he already did it. Like, what? Did I miss something? This makes sense. Surely he's not done it.
Nah. I guess he's saving it.
He did it the first week after it came out. Surely not. Surely I didn't miss that.
Yeah, I'm sure that I would have heard it and I would have talked about it. I'm sure I would have. Because, how Maher gets down. I think Maher might go play the safe route and go with the that Drake and Lil Durk song. I think he might go safe route.
Yeah, it's just inoffensive and marketable. That's the WWE way. Go with that.
That's the Drake way, too.
The song that can be on one of the 2K video games. It's safe and marketable. In the background, a song you'll forget after you've heard it. Safe and marketable. There's no hook. It's fine.
Now I want WAP on NBA 2K. That's what I want now.
It would just have to be the beat. They can't do any.
You can't do the beat because the sample is there's some holes in this house. There's some holes in this house.
So I'm going to go through the match. I'm just going to see that. Go through the main event. So
I'm having a blast, just sitting here in your discomfort. I'm really enjoying
I'm thinking. I'm picturing in my head what ladder spots could you then go with, and
I don't know.
No, none of them I can say on YouTube.
Oh God.
So Finn Balor versus in the main event. On the entrances, as I brought up video games a second ago, it's hilarious hearing the WWE 2K-esque complete cheers or rumbling of boos with no reaction in between. I'll miss this era of the WWE PC. Like in a weird way, it's like a fond little memory of the time that we were all locked inside and we watched an empty arena with a fake crowd where they press a button to make a noise. It's like, I think I'm gonna weirdly miss it. especially with the screenshots coming out of the Guess Who arena, where it's just all the different people's faces, and it looks really odd and strange. WWE will hate the fact that the worst angle for the Thunderdome is the main cam. It's like the hard cam that they always do for the ring. That's the worst
really?
one. Everything else works.
Oh, man.
Like, seriously, like the shots as they kind of... Where they point, they're just to the right of the ramp, and they kind of angle it, and you can see the depth. Like, that's when it works, but when it's flat on, my God, it's... Somebody's already photoshopped Guess Who onto it. Like, they've done it. It's already out there. Like, it's so bad. It's so flat and weird.
I'm going to have to check that out then.
Oh, yeah, the images are already out. I think like Ryan Saturn's been taking screenshots as they were doing the test as well, so they're all there as well. And Laws of Pain, there's an article on it as well. Got to plug the site. So here we get Laws of Pain. There's already an article there. But like this match had a lot of Dream playing to the crowd reaction with like quotations. He didn't know what it's like. And Balor countering him back in. It's the heel versus heel dynamic in NXT that they are not afraid to showcase. Again, like Johnny Gargano versus Roderick Strong. They're not afraid to go that route. And it's like all the best thing in the world. And James has just texted you the clip of Maher doing it. Doing the WAP thing.
Okay.
So in the match, Dream was sent to the outside and Grimes strides out confidently like Cameron Grimes. He's come for the title, chatting S-word. When we come back from the break, he's atop one of the ladders, just having a play with the North American Championship. I love that. Plenty of counters, kicking up the pace in the final 5 of the match. The two end up outside by the ladders. Balor climbs the one Grimes is on to have a wee word with him, but Dream grabs him off and drops him onto the apron. Dream DDT, countered. Balor setting up, countered. Death Valley Driver, countered. Balor finally wins out with his Stinger Death Drop with an arm across him thing. It's like a weird standing sling bladey thing. Following up with a John Woo dropkick, but Grimes works distraction again. Dream chopping down a top rope Balor. When Gargano walks down and tips Grimes off the ladder, sending him into a rogue MAGA supporter. After all that, Cameron Grimes finds himself in the middle of the ring and gets clobbered by both Balor and Dream. Finn uses a distraction to nail a sling blade, that was my issue, but can't follow up thanks to a super kick from Dream. What did I say? Lots of counters in the final bit. When Thick Boy Bronson Reed makes his way to Johnny Gargano, Mr. Rebel Heart has the North American Championship in hand and escapes into the ring, where we walk right into Damian Priest. Like, how lovely, the whole gang's here. Just have a little bit of fun. Priest and Reed stare down, the former chucking the title and hitting the Aussie. He goes to follow up, but when he reaches the ropes, he's met with a super kick from Dream, before being sent over the top and Reed topple-overs with him. Pure chaos. But Thatcher out of nowhere. He clobbers Balor, setting up their match for this Saturday, which got added on Twitter. And that's the factor that decides the match. A Dream going over in the main event thanks to a sudden moment of Thatcher's Thatch can. The victory is quickly kicked down by Johnny... The victorious one, that's what I'm looking for. It's kicked down by Johnny Gargano. I've got notes in front of me, but it's corrected to the wrong word. Gargano eyes the championship. Super kick from Grimes. Chokeslam from Priest. Clothesline from Reed. Dream jumps in, but gets caught with a death drop driver from Thick Boy. And it's Bronson Reed who stands tall to end the show as our lineup is officially filled out. And we've already talked about who our favourites were. You hit on that this was a decent match, and I felt like the ending definitely kind of saved it, and was like, yeah, it set you up for a fun match at TakeOver as well.
Yeah, I think the actual work in the ring was actually was actually pretty good. But you know, for me, once all of the other nonsense comes in the ring, and it's like, okay, so this isn't actually like to decide like who's better between Finn Balor or more deserving between Finn Balor and Velveteen Dream. This is just, you know, we have nothing really to do. I mean, it's 5 people. It's a 5-person storyline or 6-person storyline if you include, you know, the 2 people that are fighting to become the 5th person. It's like we need to add some physicality to put a you know, sprinkle some, you know, entry dust on the match, as opposed to like, you know, these guys are gonna be flying around off of ladders. But yeah, I did like the match. But you know, it's just an unfortunate thing that it's Velveteen Dream having a good match.
Yeah, but I can't get into it because it's Dream, but I can at least say, it seemed fun. I guess the best way to describe it.
It seemed fun. It's fun adjacent. It's fun like.
Yeah. North American the ladder match at TakeOver, I'm expecting it to be in a similar vein, like just extremely fun. I'm now going to go through the NXT card in order, which will let us talk about the matches at TakeOver as well as we address each thing. Because again, each match got their moment in the sun. So we kicked off the show with Johnny Gargano with Candice LeRae versus Ridge Holland. And this was the match. So obviously, after last week, there were reports coming out that there was a really nasty bump in this match. Personally, I think they edited around it really well, using the ad break to their advantage and using the screen wipe of the NXT logo just to cut to the new cut. And of course, doing it in the picture-in-picture would mean that a lot of people wouldn't have seen the kind of bump in the flow of the match and would have only have seen it in the replays. So again, like us British people, we don't always get the picture-in-picture. So, so that's quite nice. The ramp was ladders akimbo for the North American Championship qualifier. That's what Grimes was climbing up later as well. The nasty Gargano bump. I can't really speak. It was in picture-in-picture. Before replaying it later after the ad break, God, my senses gone all over the place. And us seeing Johnny driven hard right onto his noggin. Like, from the looks of it was meant to be the spinning power slam suplex from Holland, but just I didn't get it right. I didn't get the rotation right, and Gargano's drops right on his head. Obviously, I'm not a wrestling connoisseur enough to know who would be at fault. Normally, in these occasions, it's normally a little bit of both, but I don't know enough to rule anything on it. It just looked nasty, as in, you see that and think, there's a reason they ran out. That looked like it could have been a career ender just because of the way that his neck tore. And was bad. That was scary. Really, I'm just happy he's all right. I'm just glad that Johnny Gargano is all right to take nasty bumps in a ladder match. So thanks for that, Johnny.
I mean, the thing that was scary for me was I heard the report that everybody else, and it was like, he got dropped on top of his head, which is like, okay, that's one thing. But when you see it and see that he landed on his head with his head crooked, or basically with his head basically sandwiched, where Impact comes and his neck twerks. Or torques, not twerks.
Got whack on the mind.
But his neck twerks, and I had to make sure to get enunciated properly. But that was what was really scary for me, because, I don't know if Johnny Gargano is a person that trains his neck in the way that, some of our Japanese brothers and sisters train their necks for that kind of nonsense. It's one thing to be Kota Ibushi or Mayu Iwatani and do that or Chihiro Hashimoto and do that to your neck. It's another thing to be an American guy that doesn't really do that sort of thing. So that was really scary, and that could have been a disaster. And this is come from a guy that, Finn Balor dropped him right on his head on the Still Great back in November. So, or October. So, this is starting to rack up on him. And it's head drops.
Because the bump cards are real, as we're told by people later into their career, and seeing all these nasty bumps. This one was really scary, obviously. But I thought Candice LeRae played it off really well, and at ringside saying, I'm doing the heel thing of, I'm just checking on him, whilst he's obviously not 100% with it. And I guess kudos to Holland after that as well, who they did bumps I wouldn't have expected them to do with Johnny in that state, but it was seemingly relatively safe enough. And Holland, where I'm assuming Johnny Gargano would have been kind of controlling that match as the veteran in there, as the ring general, but for Holland to kind of I think he took control relatively well. He did pretty well in that final kind of third or whatever it was. In the end, LeRae grabs Holland's leg, allowing Johnny to hit the sling DDT for the win and qualify. In that final bit, Gargano was taking a lot of offense from the large Yorkshireman, and Johnny Gargano becomes the first former champion to enter the ladder match. Quality-wise of this match, hard to judge really after Gargano got spiked on his head, but he's all right now, and he can go to Saturday and hopefully survive that.
Yeah, I like the match. I like the story of Johnny. I like the story when Johnny is playing heel now, so he has to try to get heat, and he isolates body parts. So I like he kept working over his early and often. He went to that right or that left arm and kept getting himself in and out of trouble by going back to that arm over and over and over. So I thought that's a good way to, tell the story of how he can, take a muscle-bound man and put his face in the sand, in the words of LL Cool J. So that was cool.
I came up, was it for the Raw review? I wrote down LL Ivar for the Viking Raiders, and I was just laughing to myself.
Wow.
I was just, I'm just like, I'm such an idiot. It made me laugh. So yeah. Anyway, so after that, we went to Dakota Kai versus Jessie Kamiya. She's got a new name. Can't remember what the last one was, but it wasn't Jessie Kamiya.
Alabama.
That was the one. Yeah. So this was just a wee tad of a momentum builder for Kai ahead of her championship match on Sunday. Kamiya knocked in a few kicks, scoring a 2-fall with a slam to the contender. But this was your modern day NXT job match. Same with AEW, where they get a little bit of offense in, but ultimately lose. The higher up person is never really at risk. With Kai soon enough nailing the go-to kick for the win. It was after the match that was important, though. Afterwards, we get a promo cut by Kai to camera. She says that Iron makes her laugh. Like she got everything. She's been doing everything herself. She's so focused on the people of her past when, like Kai herself, she's only looking at the people of her future. When Shirai's music hits and the champ runs to the ring, leading to a mini brawl, which was interrupted by a big boot from returning Raquel Gonzalez out of nowhere, just emerging from the curtain like a magic trick. It just took her down. And I really liked how Dakota Kai was in her promo talking about how she's got to this by herself with just how great she is, and then immediately after gets help to destroy the champion. Just great heel work. I like that. Io did fight back and went after Kai, but once again Gonzalez was the game changer, laying down the champion for the two heels to pose and taunt ahead of the pay-per-view. And yeah, is it? Yeah. So in terms of Io and Kai, what are you making of that?
I had more intrigue until they played the Reina card. I thought they were going to play it at the pay-per-view, or I'm sorry, at TakeOver 30 to actually get you to believe for half a second that Dakota Kai could actually win. Because, I mean, the whole story is that she says she's done all the stuff by herself, but every single win she's had since she's turned healer actually in 2020, except for maybe one match against a jobber, all her matches have been won by Raquel or with interference from the likes of someone like Mercedes Martinez. So it would have helped her have some credibility, as she might actually be a threat, as opposed to no, she's not really a threat. The fact that Reina wasn't around, me personally, I was like, all right, when is the shoe going to drop? I haven't heard anything about her being injured, so they're clearly saving this in their back pocket for, maybe a false finish or maybe actually a title change. Now that Reina, they played the card on Reina, I don't think. I'm not going to bite on any of these finishes come Saturday. It was oh well, I know what's going to happen. Going to help Sheik. She's going to thwart her. Io's going to beat her. She's going to go back down the card.
It's one of the things where it's oh yeah, Shawn Michaels is quite heavy in NXT. Of course they're doing HBK and Diesel. Yeah, of course they're doing it like that. And
remember during In Your House TakeOver. Remember, she was referring to herself as Big Mommy Cool.
Oh, was she?
Yes, she was.
Okay. I obviously like the dynamic of Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. It works. And of course, when she's, I think of a PG way to word it, when she's chatting lyric about doing everything by herself, and then Raquel Gonzalez just comes out and just beats the person down for her, and then she's like, hey, I did it. It's great heel work. I like that.
And the best part about it was or one of the funny parts about it was not only are we going to do that where she comes through with a great big boot and sell by Io and Raquel, but they get her back in the ring and she has her in the ring and it's one-on-one and Raquel's outside, and then she's bring it, and then Io just whoops her ass in seconds, and then Raquel has to attack Io from behind. It's okay, you're not even going to pretend to give her anything. You're not even going to give her the, she got beat down slightly and then she hit her finish, left her lane. It's nah, under no circumstance are you to believe that Io Shirai can actually get put down by Dakota Kai by herself. All right.
Yeah.
Can't wait. I mean, I think it's going to be a good match, but yeah.
Yeah, well, yeah, it's given who's involved, I'm still expecting it to be pretty decent. But in terms of who's actually going to win, so like beforehand, I think I assumed that Io Shirai might retain just because she's only really just got it. But there's a theme in this NXT takeover where like the heels going in, it's like, but it also feels like this could be the time to switch to them, and the people who are champions are perfectly fine to go to the main roster like whenever because they're surely future stars, like especially the men's champion. Like it feels like the NXT needs them more than they need NXT kind of thing. Like they're done, they're good to go, and if switching to the heel, like it would work. It could move on to that next generation. Like quite often in NXT, like when Finn Balor first got called up, like the length of time they're there is just a bit longer than it feels like their kind of momentum keeps them there. Like they stay over like maybe one or two takeovers a little bit longer than they would in terms of they go up when they're ready type of scenario. So that's why I'm kind of thinking I'm expecting change because it's takeover 30 as well. On a takeover that's very oddly enough like not built on like looking to the past and celebrating, 30 takeovers. It's not doing that at all. It's like purely about kind of building the future. And I guess the tone for the rest of the show makes me think that's the thing that makes me think maybe the heels will win both of these matches here. So I'm going with Dakota Kai, and this was more the Io Shirai's focus on Kai. You forgot about Raquel, didn't you? So that's the story getting into this. But now she's revealed her card. Like you, I was expecting that at TakeOver. Like, you forgot about her, didn't you? But now they've already revealed it. So like, has it been revealed to get countered? So yeah, I'll go with the heel anyway. I'll go with Kai. But because they've already revealed the card, wouldn't be surprised if Shirai wins.
Yeah, I now that they've done this, I have a hard time imagining that they don't, somehow do a Rhea versus Io title match that, is what people really want. In, whoever loses is kind of like a loser leaves, the territory type thing. But I still expect a very good match. It depends on how much heat we get with the Raquel interference or whatever. But I still expect a really good match.
Yeah, it's TakeOver. These are normally great, these matches, especially in this generation of the women. Like their roster is so stacked that normally it's one of the highlights of the show. Speaking of the women, after this we got a backstage interview. Tegan Nox, again with interviewer whose name I still don't know, but she was interviewing her and she says stuff on Candice LeRae, touching on what the blonde lady said last week. She says, there's not really a lot of note really from this. It's like they used to be friends. Dynamic Tegan's used to, but it's like the every day essentially NXT women's story of friends falling out, and it's sad they're not friends anymore. Can't everyone be friends? No, can't be friends. Let's have a match. Okay. It's just it's the type of build which they repeat so often in NXT that it's that's how I word it now, just lazily, because it's kind of rinsed and repeated, and it's not.
It's a trope now, yeah.
Yeah, it's an NXT trope. It's like, you're not in a main event angle? Cool, you're getting the Friends storyline. Okay, cool. Cool. You've selected that on WWE Universe, have you? Okay, cool. Yeah, right. So, match number 3. Legado del Fantasma. The Cruiserweight Champion, Santos Escobar, Joaquin Wilde, who've not called Joaquin Phoenix, so well done me, and Raul Mendoza, versus Breezango and Isaiah Swerve Scott. The heels targeting Fandango and his injured arm. Swerve running fire. Escobar seemingly the only one with the counters for him, which was like a nice little touch of the group. Attempting a tag. So the ending was the thing which had a lot of discussion. Now, out of the rest of this match. Attempting a tag. Scott gets launched into the corner after like a drop kick from, I think it was Wilde or Mendoza, sends him into the corner, and he unknowingly makes a tag in accidentally knocking Breeze off the apron. Swerve is unaware, and then he has Escobar down, but he's not legal. Wilde and Mendoza run in at the seated man with a double drop kick. Tyler then tries his best as he realises he's the legal guy, but at this point it's 3-on-1, and it's not long before he's eating a phantom driver from Santos Escobar, and Legado del Fantasma grab the victory. okay. It was, yeah. I thought this match was gonna not take place this week. I think I just forgot about the build for it when they announced it last week. But I was expecting it to be one of those after TakeOver. That maybe that's what they're doing with Swerve versus Escobar for the title. Is they're saving that for maybe that recording. Like Candice LeRae, Tegan Nox. Like, you record that at the TakeOver, but you don't air it on NXT. So you don't do it on the TakeOver. You know what I mean? But yes, this was a fine, forgettable. It's like third, fourth match on the card. It's like, yeah, this was a match in that slot. Yeah,
it was a fine match, and it was good when Swerve was in. I'm just not that much of a fan of the contrived, ref sees that there is been a tag made, but the ref doesn't tell the guy that's running wild or still in the match to get the hell out the ring. That just bugs me. It's that doesn't make any sense. That's just you decided just to do this. Obviously, you decide to do anything, whatever goes on screen, but it's there's got to be a better way for you to have Legado del Fantasma win. You get a visual pin on Santos from Swerve, and Swerve, doesn't eat the pin. There has to be a more creative way than just blind tag that wasn't a blind tag by the people that caused the tag, and the ref sees but doesn't tell him, get the hell out the way. I just felt like there's something else they could have came up with better than that.
Yeah, you see it quite often. I feel like I've seen it quite often in New Day, where they make the tag but the ref doesn't see it, and that then gets heat for the heels, and it gets sympathy for the baby faces, because they feel like it's injustice, that type of thing. This match felt like that could easily have just used that trope instead. I know NXT tries new things quite a lot, and sometimes they just don't work, and that's what I felt like this one was. Is that they're not afraid to try new stuff, but sometimes that hits them in the face. I feel like that's what this kind of was.
Yeah, I mean, if the match were better, it probably would have worked more. But I think the thing for me is just I'm a person that when it comes to tag team wrestling, either I want all the rules or none of the rules. Either give me lucha rules or give me the revival. I'm not a fan of in between. Unless the match is the work level is in emotion is at such a high level, I just can't forgive that sort of stuff. Is oh my God, this is no. This isn't. It's supposed to be some type of reasonable facsimile of what if wrestling were real. How would the actors act? How would the actors and participants actually realistically come to whatever conclusions they make? Or whatever else. And I just think they make these refs just complete goofballs. Especially AEW too, because it's there's so many people, so many different styles that it's kind of poor Rick Knox. He looks like a goober all the time, and half the time I'm hey man, get him out of here, to make him look just so bad.
Yeah, and the answer to people wrestling in real life, how would it be? Obviously, the answer is Ready to Rumble. Oh, that's realistic. That's how it is. You're gonna make it realistic. That's the route to go. That film is so a film of its era. Right, so moving on to, is there anything that happens? Oh yeah, so after this, it's Sierra, Hotel, India, Echo, Lima, Pat and his friends make their way to the arena. Yes, I need to get the theme. I'm assuming you don't know what Postman Pat is.
No.
It was a kids and claymation show when I was younger, and there's talks of making it into a movie and releasing it worldwide type of thing, but reality suddenly hit, so they've not finished it off. But anyway, yeah, it's a kids TV show about a postman called Pat. It's not a kids TV show, self-explanatory titles, but I need to find that tune and put it over Pat trying to menacingly walk in, just to do that. Maybe after Sierra Hotel you play that, then it goes into the Postman Pat theme. So yeah. Anyway, match or segment number 4: Adam Cole and Pat Macafee face to face. The Undisputed Era with a proper entrance. Pat through the back with no pomp or circumstance. Just 3 NFL buddies. Can't tell you who they are. I just assume they were NFL buddies because Mauro or whoever was on commentary told me they were.
Yeah, one of them was AJ Hawk. AJ Hawk is in college, he's one of the greatest linebackers in college football history. He was a 3-time All-American. All-Americans like the elite version of an all-star game or whatever else. Like, so anyway, like this dude was was a top 5 pick in the draft class season 2005, right? And he was 250-ish in weight, like had a 40-inch vertical leap and bench pressed 225 pounds. I think it was like 25 times, something like that. Like, he's the best athlete in the building when he walks in at Full Sail. So it's kind of like, but you guys are doing this for the punter. Like, I just find this to be like, I'm just, like, go ahead and continue with the rundown, because I thought Pat McAfee had a great promo.
Oh,
to be honest with you.
Yes, he did.
Yeah.
And the flow of it I really liked as well. Like, Cole was taking the initiative, like sending his stablemates to the outside, and just taunting Pat to do the same. Pat does follow suit and is the first to go at his opponent on the mic. I thought this promo was fantastic. Like, you just really want to see Pat get his ass kicked at TakeOver. He did such a good job. He was amazing on the mic. Saying that Adam Cole has everyone fooled. After all his work on the independents to get where he is, after Undisputed Era ran in NXT, Cole was named the brand's biggest star, undefeated for how many days? And it took Pat seconds to knock his ass out with one kick. It's like, oh, I just loved the flow of that. Just the way you built it up. And it's just like, all of your training, I knocked you out with one punt. What have you got to answer that? I thought that was great. And Cole's kind of way to get back of him was, you had Pat as running insults, just with like a paragraphs of work to get through. Then Cole just steps up to him and... I've forgotten one part he says. He was saying that Saturday's going to end the same way. Cole will end up unconscious after losing his cool, which again, another thing that I like, and him bringing in the podcast or radio thing that they did. And Cole had a temper tantrum, and Pat Macafee is just like, I know how to get under your skin, and I'm going to do it again, and it's going to cost you. Then Adam Cole will have to explain to all of his wrestling friends how he lost to an outsider. And Pat tells him how to explain that. He says, because Pat McAfee, he's a different level of athlete. He's such on a higher level than everybody else as a performer. It's like, oh, he's such an ass. I love it. It's great. Then when it's Cole's turn to talk, he gets halfway across the ring before security run in and cut him off. Cole was a badass though now, so he clobbers all of them and edges closer to Pat. Both sides' amigos step up. Pat does nothing. Cole steps up and we get our close mic as he says, this Saturday, Pat, I'm going to make you my bitch. And that's that. And Pat kind of just stands there staring. Pat McAfee with the prepared speech, and Cole with just a short statement. It's like, oh, that was so well done. It's everything about that. I want to see Adam Cole kick Pat McAfee's ass. You've kind of brought in that Pat McAfee. You've told me the tactic that Pat's going in with as well. So I've got like a format building in my head. You've got their friends, so are they going to interfere as well? You've got the dangerous punt. So Pat McAfee, even if he isn't a wrestler, he's got a dangerous move in his arsenal that could win him the match, and he can tease that all the time. It's just, this made everything kind of, in terms of like the fan arguments, is it good or not? This for me kind of pushed all of that to the side, and it's just without question, yes it is. Pat McAfee was fantastic in this. Yeah,
this was very well done. This is the problem. We're like, I don't give a fuck about their match. I just don't. Like it was cool to McAfee, and quite honestly, if you ask me who was a better athlete, like I'd probably say McAfee's probably a better athlete than Adam Cole. But like, it's pro wrestling. Like, it's not real, and we all know it's not real. So like, you telling me it's not, like, you're a better athlete, it's like, cool, I get it, but I just, it's just, this is so not what they would have done a year ago before, trying to keep pace with, or trying to, curb AEW's gain on fans, or the fan base, or the culture, or whatever the hell. So like, I just can't get around that. Like, this, if Adam Cole was still going to be around in NXT, like, have him fight Thatcher, or or Johnny Gargano again, or Tommaso Ciampa again, or somebody that, from the breakout tournament that's not in the ladder match. Like, or hell, have him fight 1 year after they teased it, have him fight Roddy Strong and do a breakup of Undisputed Era. Like, that would have been way more intriguing than this. To me, like, what people actually want to see that watches the show, like, this is the no BS show, and they gave us tons of BS. We have fireballs, we have, ex-NFL players, like, in pay-per-view matches. I just...
It does... I think it's one of those things where I feel like I'm kind of watching the kind of main roster, kind of we're on TV now, like influence NXT, and it's changed. Like, I still hold it to a higher regard than Raw and SmackDown. I still enjoy it.
It's still better.
I feel like when I'm critiquing it, I'm still holding it to a higher bar. So like when we kind of make these critiques, it's like I'm still enjoying the product, and it's a higher bar of criticism compared to WWE main roster, where like I can't even watch the thing. Let's start from the beginning. So I'm not at that with NXT. It's a higher bar because that quality is higher, so it kind of makes sense to assess it that way. But yeah, this takeover, I feel like this is the one where I've really felt it. There was a lot of stuff, and as we were saying, like with the fireball as well, like that's not the type of thing you normally expect from NXT. That's a main roster thing that they do.
Yeah, I mean, even like, I guess we'll talk about the fireball later, but like, even if we're talking about the fireball thing, like, there's a way to tie that to like the heart and soul of what NXT has been for a lot, which is like a lot of influence from the territories. Like, there absolutely was a time when Jerry Lawler was out here giving people fireballs in the territory in Memphis, but they didn't. This was just like a magic trick by Scarlett, and I'm just like,
Yeah. Yeah, I think last week I was just like, after taking it back, I was just like, wait, so what's the character development here? What are you actually trying to tell me? Like, does she have superpowers? Did Karrion Kross slip in something that then exploded when he opened it? Is he really good with practical effects? Is that Karrion Kross' thing? I don't know what they were trying to do there.
She just like learned how to do a Hadouken. I guess she was playing Street Fighter like over the weekend. It's like, I know how to conjure this in real life.
Yeah, suck it. Like everyone else, you're screwed. I can do a fireball. What are you going to answer that with?
Yeah, she should be undefeated. Like she should be contending at TakeOver 30 instead of Dakota Kai. Like she can conjure fire.
Yeah, like end of that. Moving on to from. I was going to say, who do we think is going to win in Cole McAfee?
Oh my god, McAfee wins this shit here.
The amount of people I've been seeing saying that, it's like, oh, he's winning, isn't he? And I've seen some be like, well, which member of the Undisputed Era will turn? Because I think it's one of those, if you're going to have Pat win, give us like a really heart-wrenching thing off of it. Like, you give us the thing we really don't want to see, but one of the Undisputed Era turn. And I've seen different, like, each person I've seen given it, given the thing. I'm not personally expecting that. So, like, if Pat wins, I don't think it's via Undisputed Era splitting up. I feel like they're turning the entire Undisputed Era, like, slowly turning them face, and that's what this kind of is for their final run in NXT. And I don't know what would be called up to the main roster as, but I feel like this will be their final run will be as baby faces before they go.
I mean, so before I saw Retribution, last time I was on the show, so I think it was like 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago. You asked me if this is a slow babyface turn, and I was like, no, because Adam Cole's acting like the biggest douche in the world. Like, I can't give, like, if they are, like, then they have finally, like, fully gone into this is main roster with, like, them not being able to make anybody seem likable. But I feel like McAfee's done a good enough job to where, like, even though Adam Cole is still every bit the scoundrel that McAfee is right in proclaiming him to be, like, I always felt like he was a cool heel. So, like, eventually, like, I felt like there was really no need to turn him babyface because he already kind of was. But if this is what they want to do, I guess cool. But, like, I don't want to see McAfee win, and, like, because that means that kind of means you kind of have to do it again, and I don't want to see that. I don't even want to see it the first time. So. I don't know. Maybe this is the way. Like, he's so embarrassed that all the Undisputed have to pack up and leave and move on to the main roster as Retribution. Like, I feel like these like Undisputed and somebody else or a group of other people are Retribution, and we'll find that out eventually.
I mean, their sizes and colours and everything changes every single week. So who knows? Like the genders are changing as well. They're like those fish. So who knows what they're going to actually be when they get revealed. And again, I'm just waiting till SummerSlam when they can stop the seemingly lowering of like the stakes of the chaos. It's like, oh, you put through cinder blocks through a glass window that Dawkins had already smashed just like 2 weeks ago, and you had no plan to get in. You just smashed it, and they just left. It's like, oh, okay, it's all about the imagery, right? Right, I won't ask too many questions about that because that might turn me off the angle. But anyway, so moving on to this is a bit of a tonal shift. Aaliyah and Mercedes Martinez with Robert Stone, who, despite having both his legs run over, is perfectly fine. he's all good. Versus Rhea Ripley and Shotzi Blackheart. Ripley holding nothing back from the start, first brawling with Martinez and then launching poor Aaliyah across the ring. Martinez then able to swing back when up against Blackheart, like building up the two powerful lasses for their ultimate clash. I thought they did that really well in this. The two end up brawling towards the end again, like in a similar look to Martinez's original attack. They fight on the apron, but this time Ripley's able to avoid the boot and win out. The Aussie slides off the apron and grabs Martinez with a power bomb to the concrete floor. Cuts to a definitely there and shot of her, definitely there and shot like not edited. It's definitely just one thing. And then the shot of her writhing on the ground in pain. And Shotzi flies off the top rope with the senton to Aaliyah for the win, because that match is still going on after he got that big spot. I thought this built up Ripley and Martinez really well. And I feel like that's really all they were aiming to do with this one.
You know what? I think it did more. I want to see eventually someone down the line whenever the main roster women's tag team champions, whether it's Sasha and Bayley again, but in that similar fashion, I want to see Rhea Ripley and Shotzi as a tag team and get a title shot. They just fit together. You also had Rhea. She came out with the her I guess her, because it's Sean and Hunter back there. She came out in her DX gear, which perfectly matched with Shotzi's green. And the two rocker chicks came out there with all the piercings and they kicked ass. I really enjoyed their team, and they seemed like they were having fun.
Yeah, and I feel like they're building Shotzi pretty well, where she feels a bit more of an underdog, the kind of wrestler that she is, building sympathy for her really well.
Right. It worked really. It worked really well with Shotzi getting, setting up the hot tag for Rhea to go out there and, just start throwing clotheslines. I thought it was really well done.
It's the thing that NXT did really well for Kairi Sane, where they kind of build her up as the lovable baby face. It's like any kind of you can do it, with that kind of sense of, but you could get your ass kicked. So I like that. Again, I'll call that quite a big pace comparing it to Kairi Sane, but still. We know. We know there are levels. It's cool. We get what you mean, though. Yeah. So I'm looking forward to the Rhea Ripley and Mercedes Martinez. I really rate Mercedes Martinez. Again, there's a reason in the Lords of Pain Fantasy Draft that she was the linchpin of my women's division. I really rate Martinez, and it was especially in a heel role. And again, when I drafted her, she wasn't a heel, and now that she is, it's like, oh yes, I get to see the thing that I was making up. That's great to see. I feel like everyone's in the right roles, and Mercedes Martinez, Rhea Ripley's being built up pretty well, and it's nice to see an NXT rivalry that isn't in a championship match, that also isn't about formerly being friends. So, they've done it. They've done it. Oh yes. So yeah, I'm enjoying this one. I'm ready for their match. They built it up really well. Personally, I think I would have liked that to be on TakeOver over Balor versus Thatcher. Just because there's only one women's match, and they've made a habit of having two. And I thought,
I would have been good with them having both of those matches on there, and they having 6 matches. But I don't know how much of the Loomis injury affected what they were planning as far as building towards getting all the stuff, because for them to have to announce Finn Balor versus Thatcher, like granted, like they did all the work except for the announcement on air, but just having to do it at the last second, it felt like, we were going in there and only 3 matches had really been built up to where not beyond just, where they're headed, just actually like, where they're headed and you can't wait to see them, do their thing. So like all of it came together at, well at the very end, but it was kind of like, okay. This is a far, it's not necessarily the worst thing in the world that they changed it up, but like this is a far cry from when like they would have basically everything done, and then almost the last week is almost based like a whole promotional show for the takeover. So things had to change, but I can't wait to see Rhea versus Mercedes. I just can't.
Job well done, NXT. Job well done. And this kind of naturally leads us into just the final VTR packages, hyping up the show. I've already talked about the main event, so we get to end on a rundown for the card and an amazing promo package as well. The card rundown first, and I'll just say, one note, there's nothing less cool and hype-removing than a commentator saying, "The sports entertainment world continues to be abuzz about," and whatever. Like, it's like a crappy line taking out of a mediocre video game. Come at me, 2K fans. Come at me. Like, it's just... whenever I hear that, I'm just like, it feels like it was written by a 50-year-old man and delivered by a 40-year-old man. I just don't care. It's just, no. Don't care. Also, there's a low-flying airplane going overhead, so if you can hear that, that's cool. So that's nice.
I haven't heard it because I can't hear you over the fact there's a thunderstorm outside Central Florida in the summer. That's what it does. It rains cats and dogs.
The Gators won't like that. I don't know much about Florida, but there's the Gators. I saw the story about an alligator in a school and the guy just dragging that. There's a video and the guy just dragged the alligator out and the alligator's like, yeah, that's about right. Just like no emotion in his face.
Yeah. At my house right now, I am about maybe 100 yards from a lake/pond that has gators in it. So I understand. I get you. I get the gator thing in Florida and all the jokes. I get it. A lot of it's true.
A lot of it's true. There are alligators. Confirmed. Conspiracy confirmed. Keith Lee versus Karrion Kross. We got an amazing pay-per-view quality VTR package, as we often do with NXT. In these kind of, like this final week, we'll normally get a promo package for one of the big matches with a lot of effort put into it. And it's just something about it where it doesn't feel like a main roster one, where a lot of it will be trying to turn crap into gold. Which is a good way to explain it. Like, normally in NXT, it's already been good, and then when you revisit the stuff, you're like, I remember that. Oh, that was great. Oh, we're all getting to see the climax of it this Sunday. Oh, that's awesome. And it's... I feel like they did a decent job where even the crappy stuff, where I didn't like it at the time, it worked in this promo package. I felt like the way it was edited, the order they did it in, what came after what, the Karrion Kross's things. Favourite line of the promo was about, you're the man who climbs a mountain to find out at the top it was actually a volcano. It's like, amazing line.
Yeah. And really then it's a transition into fire at the end, the fireball at the end of
yeah. I mean, that was a bit... The line was good.
Though. Yeah. And to be honest, if you take the fireball out of it, which is just, so preposterous, if you take that out, everything else in this whole program has worked perfectly. Just one thing. It's one terrible, gigantic thing, but this promo, this build, the Dijak stuff, the getting Keith Lee out of the mode of being the happy-go-lucky MC babyface that WWE has made most of their champions, babyface champions over the last decade or so. Like, it was so good, or still is so good. It is. And I still want to see their match. I still can't wait to see these two dudes like lock it up.
Yes, they've done. I think part of that is just because I was fans of both these guys before WWE, and I've seen them wrestle the kind of style of match I'm assuming they're going to have against different opponents, and that's got me excited. Like, knowing what Keith Lee's like against big men. Like, one of my favourite Keith Lee matches was against Walter. It's just like, in that era where you'd hear a lot of like pure WWE fans just say, it's like, what are you watching the indies floor with which is just like your little indie tiny people just doing their flips and things. And I'm sitting there going, I'm watching Keith Lee Walter. What are they talking about? These guys are massive. But yeah, so Keith Lee against big men really works, and carrying Cross as he's suplexing big men as well also really works. And I can't really wait. And I think we were talking about it last time. They've built it up well enough where I'm praising them like I would praise New Japan, where they've built up either competitor really well to the point where I don't know who's going to win. I have my personal favourite just because of... you always get that when you watch something. Like, I'm leaning towards Keith Lee. I would like Keith Lee to win. However, they've built it up so well that I really wouldn't mind if Karrion Kross won. Like, both avenues for me are appealing in terms of what comes next. Where do we go after this? Like, both are really appealing to me. Like, if Karrion Kross wins, then my assumption is Keith Lee goes to the main roster, and Keith Lee is surely star-bound with everything about him. Surely. Oh, they did so well last year with the Roman Reigns thing and then the Royal Rumble spot where he felt big on both moments. Like, come on, WWE, you can do this. I believe in you. You're in the Thunderdome now. You can do it.
Yeah. It's just a thing when it comes to the moments. It's like the moments are fleeting with them and far between, and like they give you hope because you realize like look what they can do, and then it's all about like either the build up to moments or the follow up, and they're so bad with that is like on the main roster at least. That's like, why should I have any faith that you're gonna follow through with this? Like, sure, you can. Maybe the best hope is that you only mess up 7 or 25% of it, and they can fix it with the video package along the way, before the match comes out. But you watch their TV, and more times than not, you're just like, ugh.
Like, they did it with Matt Riddle as a case and point. Matt Riddle debuts, has an amazing match with AJ Styles. It's like, oh, maybe they could. But like the very next week, they've got him explaining a story from his childhood, which affected him, and that's why he doesn't wear shoes anymore. Like, What are you doing? You don't have to explain that. He just doesn't wear shoes. Why do you wear shoes? Prefer it. That's it. That's all you need.
Right.
You don't do more than that.
Yeah, I heard about that, and then the other part about it is like, if you feel that need, then I need you to go back and explain why you didn't feel that need with Rusev back in 2014, because you didn't do it then, and it was perfectly fine. Like,
yeah, fans won't mind that much. It's fine. You don't need a going out in the cold backstory. I don't know what that was. That was crazy. Oh, because I got frostbite. What are you talking about? Just leave it.
Right.
But yes, this match, in terms of predictions, it's because I don't mind either way. I find it a little bit difficult. Like, normally in terms of momentum, you'd pick one over the other. I feel like the absolute role Karrion Kross has been on, I feel like surely he's winning, even though I want Keith Lee to win. So my answer is both, I guess. It's not a great answer.
I'm going to go with Keith Lee. I feel like if you're going to make him the champion in June, you should not take the belt off of him in August. I think that's stupid. Same goes for, and also kind of same goes for Io Shirai. Like, we've been overran over the last 2.5 years to 3 years with NXT with just overwhelming like heat champions. Like, we had at one point we finally got the TV NXT on USA. Like, every single champion after Roddy won the US title, every single champion was a heel. Like, we had Johnny Gargano after chasing the belt for 18 months, like hold the belt for 2 months, and then it was out on hold for 400 days. It's like, we had Shayna. Shayna lost the belt and then won it back, and then went on to hold the belt for like a year and change. Like, I'm sorry, like, the purpose of heat is to get a payoff, and like having these baby faces like only hold the belt for a month or two sucks. It really does. Like, I understand, like, you're in a schedule and you cycle these people in and shuffle them along, but it's like, we're in a point now where NXT guys don't, do a year and a half, 2 years, and are out of here. Like, now we got Johnny Garganos, we have the Undisputed Era. Some of these guys are gonna be around for a while, so I think it's best for you not to have them win titles, as a babyface, lose, and then just move on to the next guy to get heat to build to the next guy for a short-term thing. Like, what's the point of watching this show if you have no protagonist that can't, like, ever hold on to the belt for a long time? Like, that's one of the big issues with the main roster. So I think, them not knowing how to have a sustainable babyface is likable. Like, obviously there's problems with overexposure in 5 hours television, but aside from that, they're just not good at doing that. NXT's better at their baby faces, so it's like you might want to keep the people that are around are likable around, at the top, and then have them be the heroes of the show. But we'll see. The way you talked about it, given that we had the situation about a conversation a few weeks about with Undisputed is turning babyface, and I thought Noah just dismissed it offhand. Like, now it makes you wonder, like, are they just gonna like put the belts on Io and Keith Lee in June, and then take the belts off them by August, and then like move on to the main roster? It's like, great. Like, we couldn't have like put the belts on them months earlier than this, and then like had their a substantial run, and then move on from there. Like, I know there's money in the chase, but like, if no one ever gets to the mountain for long, then what's the point of the chasing? Like, we're just gonna go, oh, he's another person who's gonna win a belt for 2 weeks and then move on. Great. Or 2 months and then move on.
I feel like one thing that might really hurt them in terms, because I'm starting to feel a bit of, right, I'm okay, I'm done with you in this. Like Johnny Gargano, that feeling of, I feel like you're done with NXT. It's that thing of, why are you still here? Even though you're great, I think he's a fantastic wrestler, one of the best wrestlers going. It's just that, character-wise, I'm kind of done with him. Like, I'm ready to see him somewhere new in a new environment. But with him going against AEW, I don't know if there's that kind of feeling like, we should establish stars and keep them on NXT. But at the end of the day, it's a developmental. And that feeling of, it's time to move on, like we're kind of getting with Undisputed Era, like I was talking about with Johnny Gargano, that's going to happen. Yeah, that won't happen with AEW, because they're essentially, that's their main roster. It's like going up against, I guess, AEW Dark, where that is a bit more of a thing, but then Dark are like, we were going up against them on YouTube, so we should probably not call them up to the main show. It's like, no. Like, at the end of the day, it's developmental, and those people have got to move on. And that's going to, I feel like the draw to have stars that people recognise and have them go up, and I think the telling factor was this week in terms of the, because the ratings came out, and NXT did 800,000 and something.
Mm-hmm. 850 something thousand, yeah.
So in terms of there was no AEW, which has routinely 700, 800,000 themselves most weeks.
800, yeah, 800, yeah.
And NXT gets 600,000 more often than not.
Yeah. I mean, there's two different fan bases.
Yeah, that's
like there's some overlaps. There's some overlap, no doubt, but like for the most part, they're two different fan bases.
I feel, and that's what it's proved this week, was only 200,000 tuned in. The majority of them didn't, and AEW got 200,000 watching All Out on a replay on their YouTube channel. Like, what's that? It was 220,000. I know there's a massive difference, but it's one of those two numbers. Like, it did well, and it's kind of proving a point. It's two completely different fan bases, and there is some overlap, as we pointed out, with the 200,000. But NXT, there was a little bit of intrigue going in. It's like, will the fan base be the overall number? Will they actually get over 1 million or something like that? Like, when it's just the one on? And the answer was no. And in terms of NXT, I feel like at the end of the day, it is a developmental for WWE, and maybe that could hinder them.
It's a third brand.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. And them not calling up Undisputed Era, them not calling up Johnny Gargano, I feel like that could, in the long run, start to hurt them, especially if they're trying to build stars.
I mean, the lifeblood of NXT was the fact that you got these people in and they gave you the matches that they were kind of like the best of the matches they were having before they got to WWE for a year to 2 years or whatever, and then they went to die on the main roster.
Yeah.
That was a lifeblood. It was new talent, fresh acts. Nothing ever got stale because It's kind of similar to All Japan Women's in the 90s, where it's like they had the age limit where like you were done once you turned 26 or 25, where like you have these people, they're doing the best work they can, and like the cards in the roster will look totally different 2 years from now. So you never have to rely on, you know, Randy Orton again, you know? So now we're at the point where, like we mentioned, that was it Brooklyn 3 when Adam Cole showed up with Red Dragon, right?
Yeah.
That was 3 years. Like 2 years in wrestling is a long ass time, but you know, people, you know, when you think about it, of all the stuff you go through, the number of programs you have, the amount of stuff that changes and rosters, like 2 years is a long time in wrestling. So 3 years is even longer. You're right about that, and like, you know, we're still in the honeymoon period with AEW. You know, we're at 10 months, you know, or actually closer to 11 months. Like, you know, we're still trying. Like, I'm thinking, me and Rich talking about this on the show on Sunday. Like, what are we going to do with Jericho and Orange Cassidy once they're done with each other? Because I don't think there's any smooth places to go right now, and it's like, that's going to be a problem, or not a problem, but like that's going to be a challenge that's naturally occurring for any program, any promotion. Like, what are you going to do with the top of your card in this era when people are trying to retain as much talent as possible? People are trying to get locked up into 5-year contracts on the WWE side. AEW has locked up a lot of people to 3 years. Like, what's going to happen after this honeymoon period wears off? Like, you know, I have faith in them because everything they've done, or most of what they've done so far, has been so good. But like, that's still a challenge that they have to eventually tackle. And I'm interested to see how they handle it. And same thing for NXT over these next couple years, when there are people that they feel like they need to keep on NXT, because like because they're going to be effectively useless on the main roster eventually. And like, you know, what is Johnny Gargano? You know. Like, if he can't figure out Ricochet, he's never going to figure out Gargano, and obviously Gargano's a way better promo, but so my point is the same. Like, he's still going to see, all he's going to see is a small guy. He's not going to care about, like, the fact that, like, he's one of the best wrestlers, and the best wrestler in America. No one's going to care, or he's not going to care.
Now, there's a reason, like, Cesaro is seen as one of the fan favourite people to leave WWE and try elsewhere in the current environment. Just because, like, when you've got wrestlers that incredible, it's kind of like someone like R-Truth works in WWE, like, right? Just 100%. Somebody like
great role too. Yeah, a great role to have. A comedy prelim person that, you know, can't actually wrestle, has respect as a worker. Yeah. We know that, and you know, is a great at comedy and has done his thing for years. Absolutely.
And I guess you're kind of seeing it now with like MVP Bobby Lashley. That there's. Drew McIntyre as well, put into that bracket. All people who really do fit in WWE, like Randy Orton, WWE wrestler through and through. But there are people there like Cesaro who are never really going to be appreciated in WWE, but the fans can see them, and that kind of style would really work in AEW. And I'm quite interested to see, like, over the years, where we start to get a bit more of a, I guess, 90s feel, where they're going back and forth. Like, you see AEW guys on WWE, you see WWE guys on AEW. I feel like it's only a matter of time till that happens. And we've seen it with the releases from WWE, where they've popped up on AEW. Even if it's just going to be like a short spell or something, you've seen the wrestlers who have got relationships. Because, of course, like, people in AEW are friends with the people who work in WWE. Like, the rivalry doesn't actually exist. Like, it's only
in Vince McMahon's head, and in the fans that are like have tied their identities to whichever brand they like more than the other one.
Yeah,
that's it.
Yeah, I think we talked about it before, where brand loyalty, like, neither of us is like, that's not a thing. Like, they're not your friends. I don't quite understand.
Right.
Yeah.
They just want your money, Marks.
Yeah. But yeah, so TakeOver 30 this Sunday, not Sunday, Sunday's bloody SummerSlam, so much wrestling. This Saturday is TakeOver and AEW. I mean, if you want both on at the same time like a mad person, I guess you could. But yeah, so this Saturday night is TakeOver 30. We've touched on each match on the card as well. The least Finn Balor Thatcher, because NXT touched on it the least, so it makes sense. We mentioned it was happening, and that was about it. There is a 3-team tag team number 1 contenders match. I think that'll be on the pre-show. Yeah,
pre-show.
Been announced for pre-show.
It's Breezango versus Wild and Mendoza versus Birch and Lorcan.
I was trying to remember who the third team was. Yes. Yeah, that'll be fine. I mean, if you want more wrestling, you can get it on the pre-show.
This weekend's loaded, by the way.
Yeah,
loaded.
To me, like, because I got NXT TakeOver, which I think I'm going to watch live. Then on Sunday, I'm going to have AEW, and then Saturday SummerSlam, and of course I'm live with Aftershock after SummerSlam. Like, good God, there's so much, and then it's back into the same rhythm. Like Tuesday, update again for Raw review. Like, there's like one day break.
Yeah, but also that weekend, like, if you're a person that is into international wrestling, there is Stardom has their 2 gigantic shows in Yokohama on Saturday and Sunday.
Weekend?
That's this weekend. Yep.
I've forgotten.
Which with title matches, huge exhibition singles matches. People. But anyway, you also have the Rev Pro show, their first show in forever with a tag match between Ospreay and Michael Oja. And then you also have their women's title match between Jamie Hayter of Stardom and not B Priestley, but Giselle Shaw. So that's going to be one of the better women's matches of the year. So there's a lot of stuff going on this weekend. And then next weekend after that is Summer Struggle for New Japan.
Yeah, going to Jingu for a baseball stadium show. So it should be kind of interesting.
Right.
Yes. And of course, not forget, I'll be starting off my Saturday by watching the Thunderdome. Oh, the Thunderdome. Oh.
So how excited are you for your excitement level of 1 to 10 compared to let's say 5 years ago or 7 years ago SummerSlams?
It's an odd one. So for the last 2 years, I stopped watching WWE all summer. Just went to Japan. I'd write about New Japan, like the G1 Climax will be happening now, and it was probably finished by now. But that would be the thing taking up my time, and I tuned back in for SummerSlam, and I found myself I'll be looking forward to it because it's my jump back in. It's I was like, yeah, that's this thing I've not watched for months. I'm looking forward to seeing if they've got their feet back or whatever. Like last year, where it was the summer of just throwing crap at the wall and seeing what sticks. Like every 2-3 weeks was something new. Who remembers Raw Dark? That was a thing. So, case in point.
24/7 title was born. Ember Moon may have lost her career because of that stupid conga line chasing the 24/7 title.
And it's so there's so much stuff in the world. The wild card rule, just changing what it meant every other week. People switching bands, jumping back. There was just so much randomness just thrown out there. Well, I just tuned out. I went, I'm going to wait for you to sort your feet out, and I'll come back for SummerSlam. And for the past 2 years, I have enjoyed SummerSlam. I've gone into it going, oh god, this card looks long, and just kind of expecting a difficult to watch show. But for me, I've enjoyed the flow of SummerSlam, so I go in this. This is now the third one where if they nail the flow again, and that's for me 3 years in a row where I would have enjoyed SummerSlam. So I feel like there's a bit of a recent precedent where the show itself is actually quite good. It was just there's this thing the last 3 years in SummerSlam where there's a stretch of either the first half or the last half of the show is really good, and then but the opposite half, the other half is just what happened? What's going on? Why is this half a good ass show? I think,
I'm with you.
Was it last year where I think they got a bit of criticism for starting relatively weak and then building up and up and up? And I was like, well, they've done a Wrestle Kingdom card.
The main event, yeah. The last 2 years were like that, but I remember 2017, where you had they put Usos versus the New Day on the pre-show. They have maybe the best pre-show match in WWE history. And then that's back in the summer of tag teams, whereas Ambrose and Rollins are kind of having this in the bar, kind of having this top this thing with the Usos and the New Day between the brands, and it's just a great rivalry within a rivalry, a rivalry within rivalries. But that was just a crazy first half of that show, and then after that, it just fell off a cliff.
So in terms of how much am I excited for it, I don't know. I'll I'll temper it with how the Thunderdome looks on SmackDown.
How about the Thunderdome? Okay.
So pyro and all of that. I'm assuming there's going to be the augmented reality again, just with all that stuff coming out. There's I'm dreading Kevin Dunn cuts in the Guess Who kind of the screen crowd, where looking flat on was so much information as it is. Put that with Kevin Dunn cuts, and I'm really just like, God, these first few weeks are going to be hell as they figure out which angles they should be jump cutting between. Never mind the angles they really shouldn't be. So it's so dear.
I think also at play is going to be like how like Triple H back there trying to tell Kevin Dunn how to shoot like the celebrity that's going to be on the screen that they show, and like just do it how we do when we have a takeover and there's a new indie person coming in, and he's like, and then Kevin Dunn's like, no, I want to add 4 cuts to that.
So, Retribution, that's one I'm dreading the most, because they do shaky cam and zoom. It's like a fight in a Transformers movie where you've got absolutely no idea what is going on.
Yes, I often compare Michael Bay in Kevin Dunn. I often do.
It's just that it's like, for me, that's not how you film a fight, because you could be
right.
Can't follow it at all. Like you're not the Raid. I can tell you that. You know exactly.
At least Raid had, like the tracking shots they hold, But yeah, I get what you mean. It changes. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'll temper it. I don't know. Are you looking forward to it? I feel like it could be good. But,
okay. So I've really liked McIntyre's championship run. Like he comes out, they have him be the baby face that we've talked about, where he's an MC or whatever else, and a little over jovial. But like when it comes down to he gets in the ring, like he busts his ass every time I've seen him. I check for Raw like almost every other week. I've liked his title defenses on pay-per-view. I really liked the Rollins match. I really liked the Lashley match till the finish, where they had to, they did that wacky thing to have a rematch down the line eventually. So like Randy Orton on the mic has been great this year. I think if we were to talk about most number of quality promos this year, I think it's him and like Moxley, in some order. I think Moxley probably has more, but like I don't think anyone else has more than Orton, which is a shocker considering like what his rap was, a decade ago. But yeah, like so, and he's Asuka versus 2 horsewomen in title matches. Like obviously one or even 2 of them gonna have screwy finishes, but like the quality of the wrestling is gonna be there. So like there's gonna be stuff on the card for me there to enjoy. But like Bray Wyatt versus Braun Strowman.
Yeah. Bold Strowman. He's bold now. So big bold Braun.
Know it's a singles match yet, or is it gonna be like some stiff?
I think it's a singles match so that they can do the Fiend entrance.
Okay, so I think that if they have a regular match with regular rules with a clean finish, which it's a Bray Wyatt match, so that's not going to happen probably. But I kind of liked some of the stuff they were doing before they started pulling out the puppets in their first regular match. I think there was a Money in the Bank. I think so. It's not a swamp match. Hopefully there's no puppets at ringside. Maybe they actually have a little fun match.
I don't know. I'll just bet on that at all.
I know. It's very wide on pay-per-view. I know.
So to shift gears into plugging our stuff before we sign off, I am currently in a mad edit to get I recorded it yesterday. So I'm in a mad edit to get it up maybe some point tomorrow, some point on Saturday. I got Ash from Wrestling Shorts, and we did a worst case scenarios roulette where we split the matches in half. We had 4 each, and we had to create 2 horrific scenarios for those matches, and we then had to pick like which one would we go with. So it's a pick of the worst. What will you do? Kind of scenario. So that was really fun to record, but I'm in a mad edit trying to get that done in time. Because it'll be a video, so doubly crazy. I will release a podcast version as well. Yes, because I'm doing a big edit of the sound as well. So hopefully I'll get that out. In fact, I'm saying this at 3 a.m. tells you just how busy I am. There's so much going on.
Right.
So that should hopefully be up by Saturday. because at least give it a day to be up before SummerSlam airs. So fingers crossed. We'll see how that goes. Also, I will be live after SummerSlam. There's going to be no post NXT thing because, again, I'm not going to go live on that. And then after that, again, there's a very strong chance I'll be up all night editing. So then no way in hell. But I'll be live after SummerSlam for the SummerSlam Aftershock. And I think between that, here on Lords of Pain, there'll be the podcast special for the WWF Legacy Series, the history of the WWF run. Can't remember where they're at now. I think they've just done the Royal Rumble after the Mega Powers split. No, that can't be right. It must be forming the Mega Powers. They didn't split, but they're doing the Mega Powers era. It's like that bit in WWF
That
history.
is, I think that's SummerSlam 88 era.
Yeah. So yeah. Royal Rumble 89, I think they did last week. So whatever pay-per-view or event, or I think actually it's unabridged, so they're going to the TV show afterwards. I think that's what they're doing this week. So
okay,
proper, not leaving anything out, because I can't recommend the show enough. Just the amount of detail they go into, not leaving anything. So that will come out tomorrow on the podcast side. YouTube side, don't think there's anything until I get the video up. So whenever I finish that, whenever I collapse in a heap with it finished, so that will hopefully be up. And I think that's everything I need to plug. Follow me on Twitter at the Damn Implicat. Go to Wrestling Headlines for your wrestling news. There's the fantasy draft that's up in the columns. There's the column in the columns forum. There's the people in the columns forum writing columns in the columns forum. There's the other columnists posting stuff as well. I need to post a column on the main page. I think the last one I did was for the New Japan Summer Show, begins with D. I've just went to the 80s, so I've got Demolition in my head. But it's whatever it's called. What is it called? Everybody, New Japan fans know the show I mean. The big
10 best matches of Barry Darsow.
Yes, New Japan Demolition. So that was the last column I wrote. So if I'm right, I think I'll be writing something on the show in Jingo, their Summer Struggle. So I'll finally have a column up next week. But read the other columns. Everyone else have been knocking them out, including Social Suplexes. Clive from the Vicky and Clive show, he put one up this morning, I think. If you want to go and read that one, which I think is a nice transition into James plugging all the stuff that he needs to plug. Run away. Not run away.
Man.
You know what I mean?
Oh man. Okay, so first things first. I'm selfish, so I'll say my thing first. You can follow me on Twitter at JamesBoyd87. I host a podcast called One Nation Radio. You can follow that at One Nation Radio. We're part of the Social Suplex Podcast Network. And yeah, like we have a bunch of stuff from everything. Oh, we also have a Pro Wrestling Tees shop, so www.com/socialsuplex. Pick up some free merch. Not free. Take that back. You can take up some merch though. But yeah, that's a lot of stuff I got for you there. So.
And you can check him out on One Nation Radio over the Social Suplex Network. Have you got any big collaboration-y things planned for SummerSlam, or are you just going to run the schedule as normal?
Schedule is normal. It's weird. Like a lot of us are watching a lot less main roster stuff, so we're a lot less hyped to have less super coverage for SummerSlam. Like I was talking about it last week with Rich at the end of the show, and I was like, dude, like, can you imagine like. Same question I posed to you like 5-7 years ago, like feeling this way about SummerSlam. Is like our tastes have evolved. The company has changed a lot. I just wish that they the main roster had their heads on a little bit straighter, and we probably still not probably. I'm sure we will still be into it. Like most of our favorite wrestlers are still in WWE. We want to see them have great kick-ass matches and do all these awesome things that we know they're capable of, and seeing them do in the past and have track records of, being at a certain level is just, right now they're just in a bad spot right now creatively. A real bad spot.
Yes, and it's a weird one. I'll see how excited I am about if SmackDown's a train wreck or not. We'll see how it goes. Yes, tune into all the stuff that we just plugged. Follow us on Twitter and all of that jazz as well. I've put both of our Twitters in the description as well, so if you can't spell, they're there to click on. Just click on them and they're right there. And there's one last thing to plug. which has lost my mind. I do apologise to whoever told me to plug the thing.
Well, I'll give you some time. Like, if you don't know how to spell our plugs or anything like that, then maybe I suggest you I'll give you a shout out and you go ahead and check out Hooked on Phonics. Maybe teach you how to read some. Could help you out if you can't spell One Nation Radio. Any little bit can help. It's never too late. It's never too late to learn how to read.
Social suplex.
I'm fucking around and say something offensive.
James is already done with the Manscaped plugging. He's looking for new sponsors. Anyway, so I'm going to sign off now. I do apologise to the person that it's just not coming. It's 3 a.m. It's not happening. So you can. So I'll be here on Sunday for Aftershock and hopefully get the video up and hear my voice on Saturday and. Schedule as normal after that as well with a Raw review and the NXT review next week. I am going to be woken up tomorrow. I'm getting an extension built. The builder's coming early to knock a wall through. Oh, that's going to be a nice 7 a.m. wake up with the wall just behind my bedroom door just getting smashed open. So the whole house is going to be vibrating so early in the morning. So that's great. So on a final note, thank you to James Boyd for coming onto the show. And I'll bid you adieu, and James will bid you... ta-ra. Ta-ra. And we're done.